step to the microphone, young man, and give us your first name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a student at COS.
Okay,
And towards the end of the conversation, they were talking about the varying philosophies and how that affects the ballot and everything. So my question is, given that we're on the verge of an electoral realignment, many pundits have said that this is showing the end of this, modern conservative movement. However, given the policies of George Bush, whether it be the stimulus package or doubling the Department of Education, Homeland Security, prescription drugs, the bailout package, that's anything but conservative. So I would like to have your viewpoint on if that does show qualities that are bad in conservatism, or if that shows qualities that are bad in maybe more government, because like I said, those policies aren't necessarily conservative, so I'd just like your opinion on that.
Well, Joe started out earlier and said, government is just a matter of what you think government should be doing for you. Does government do everything for you, or does government just protect the borders of the country? And somewhere in between we'll find you're either a liberal or a conservative. And I think probably the biggest problem we have in this country is we try to label everything. It's very Western, it's the way we like to think. If we can label it and put it in a box, then we think we understand it. I don't think that we understand conservatism, and I don't believe that we understand liberalism. I know that there was a recent study that came out and said that a conservative can pretty much tell you how a liberal thinks, but a liberal has a heck of a hard time telling you how a conservative thinks. And I don't think that's a matter of brain function or a problem with Joe. He just doesn't get it. He's always saying, I don't get it. He doesn't get it. The bottom line is, when we work, we should be able to benefit from our own labor. When someone is running for President of the United States and they're saying, and I'll just use this number and I'll tell you where I have a problem, saying that a small business person who generates $250,000 a year is going to be taxed at a higher level. The very first question you should ask is that $250,000 net, or is that $250,000 gross? Because you can generate $250,000 and walk home with $20,000. Well, unfortunately, Obama's plan is $250,000 gross. It isn't $250,000 net. There are a lot of people who gross $250,000, but they don't walk home with $250,000. That's the engine that runs this country. Those people create jobs. The difference between a liberal and a conservative is that, in my opinion, liberals don't complete the question. They get all the data, they get the right data set, and then they start to extrapolate an answer, and when they get to a place that's nice and warm and fuzzy, they just don't go anymore. They just say, well, that's comfortable, I'll stay there. Well, they won't, they refuse to take it to around the corner to say, okay, but look, this is what the impact is going to be on society. I absolutely agree with you about George Bush. I do believe that after 9/11, the need to stimulate the economy was there, and that worked. I believe that Greenspan left rates too low for too long. I believe that there are so many fingers pointing in so many different directions today that no one will shoulder any responsibility for this, but this was mutual. People were using Freddie and Fannie as their own personal piggy banks, and they were rewarding people that way, and the Republicans did it, and the Democrats did it. And we are here because we were greedy too. We borrowed money. They said an awful lot of people who borrowed money lied to their banker, and their banker never checked. So we all got here together, and it's a big mess. But the way you fix it, you get the property that broke us, that we're in problems with, back into the hands of the people in this room. It's not going to do us any good to have the government owning everybody's mortgage in this country.
Sure, I'd like to give you a minute or so. Well,
so Nick, are you thoroughly confused now? Here's what I get. For about the last 40 years, or at least since the 80s and Ronald Reagan, what we've had in this country is a method of operating which was the conservative model which was sold to the people in this country for a good reason. And the reason it was sold to them is because things swing in this country. When it doesn't work one way, the pendulum swings. And when Ronald Reagan was elected, the pendulum swung his way. And here's the way it was. It was less government, less regulation. He sold the people on the idea, government should get out of our way and let us do it. Well, now we have a bigger problem, because when you have people at the top who run the investment banks, who run all of the investment companies, not Tom, but the guys at the top, those guys are smart and they're resourceful and they know how to be greedy and they do it really well. And when that happens, we have a problem because they take advantage of us. So what we're having now is a change in the default status. It's no longer going to be small, limited government with no regulation. It's going to be reasonable regulation, and the government will step in to fix the problems that the greed has brought to us. And the default is changed. You will now see a Franklin Roosevelt redo. It's coming, and when Obama takes that office, you will see another National Recovery Act, you will see another Works Project Administration. It will be done smarter, it will be done with a 21st century mentality, but it's the change that's coming because it hasn't worked. We have too much trouble right now, and so the pendulum will go the other way. What our job is going to be is to keep our eye on it and hold our elected officials accountable. Because every time you get somebody who takes advantage of the pendulum swing, they tend to overdo it. And that's what our job is, to see to it that they don't overdo it.
And obviously, regulation is necessary. Too much regulation is hurtful. Not enough is hurtful. So it's finding that balance. But what I had problems with recently was when a man runs into your home with a burning stick and says, your house is on fire, but if you give me your money, I'll put the fire out. Oh, but by the way, I started the fire. That's what we saw, I think, when we saw Paulson talking to us initially, and all of this urgency that the public became very confused and concerned. And that's why Congress had a hard time passing this, because they were going to have to go back and look at their own constituents and say, hey, here's $700 billion, but it's not $700 billion anymore. Now it's going to be $1.1 trillion, which is probably going to be $2 trillion, and that's where the problem comes. The people who gave us this initially are the ones who are saying now, hey, wait, we can fix this. And that bothers me a lot. I think the answer is in the private sector.
I'm a little confused.
Me too. So am I.
And Christian Anderson, who is standing by, and to whom I want to express great thanks for having organized all this tonight, absolutely.